Hello everyone, welcome back to another video, and today it is another review and recap of the Boulet Brothers Dragula Titans Season 2, and we're on episode 8. We're in the semifinals, folks, so let's see how everything goes. So, I actually want to talk about my look today. So, I'm actually filming this on Thanksgiving. I know, why aren't you with your family? Well, we're, my kind of Thanksgiving is, non-traditional, because we're having, a really big family gathering, this weekend after Thanksgiving. So, we were like, oh, let's just keep Thanksgiving amongst, the families, and then we'll have, the big Thanksgiving thing on the weekend. But I was seeing this trend going around on Instagram where people were, they were doing the 2016, very much wearing makeup to go, wearing full glam to go, sit in the living room. And I wanted to kind of do that today. I kind of did what I thought was more 2016 style makeup. I don't have any blush on. All of this is just bronzer, the crazy highlight. I have a little bit of blush on. It's the Milani Luminoso blush, which it just kind of mixes in with my bronzer. I just have a lot of bronzer. I have a matte lip on, and I did a very much brown. I tried doing a cut crease, but it just kind of looks like my normal makeup. But I think it looks really fun. And I also think it kind of looks good. The brown. Honestly, maybe I'll try doing this, but I also have to check it out in different lighting because I don't know if it looks like I have a poo streak on my face. But anyways, without further ado, let's get on with the review. So we start with the Boulets, their monologue. There's not really much going on there. And then we go on to the long table talk room. We go to the long table room, and everyone's coming back in after elimination. And everyone just kind of started off celebrating, woo, we're in the top 5, which is crazy. And also, every single one of the competitors has not made it to the finale. So every single one of them has been eliminated in their season right before the finale. And I don't know, I thought Eva went to the finale in Titans 1, but maybe I think I remember her getting eliminated little episode before the finale. So there's that. But everyone's happy that they finally made it to the semifinals, and this is kind of their last chance to really make an impression before they could possibly get eliminated. And then they talk about the elimination that Eva did to Sigourney, and it was everyone was gagged, basically, oh my god, that was crazy what you did. It was so unexpected to eliminate Sigourney, who was probably one of the more bigger competitors in this. They could have definitely just gotten rid of maybe or you even got rid of Bora or JK, which are also really big competitors. But Sigourney and Eva had a lot of history going into the in this competition, and a lot of back and forths. So it was definitely yeah, we're going yeah, Eva's gonna be getting rid of Sigourney. And they were talking about the cauldron before the elimination, where Sigourney was oh, don't you really want to do that to me? You really want to eliminate me? Don't you want to be competing against the best and all that? And that whole conversation in the cauldron. And everyone was saying yeah, that was kind of a manipulative move. And I definitely will say that, but she's definitely kind of been hurt a lot from the last two, this season and the last season she was in. So I understand kind of being on the defensive, but kind of her wording was just not really that good. And then everyone's talking about oh, how is everything gonna pan out, because Cynthia doesn't have a win yet, so will she be eliminated? But Cynthia's no, even though I don't have a win, I know that I bring different things every single week. And then she kind of makes a little bit of a jab at Abora for saying that Abora doesn't really have that much of a defining like silhouette or like an interesting style, and kind of gives the same thing every week, which I kind of disagree, because like you've seen how like Abora has done so many different things in this competition. Like you compare like Abora's Christmas tree look to like Abora's like Western look. Even though Abora has like a signature thing, like the like pointy nose, even though sometimes like they won't do it like that, like for another challenge, but it's just kind of like her, like one of her defining features is the nose and like different things like that. So I don't really think Abora has like a stagnant style. I think just Abora kind of has this more fantastical style compared to like a lot of the other competitors. But then we get the sirens, and then the Boulets come onto the TV, and we see them talk about this week's challenge. And this week's challenge is that they have to make a look based on a supervillain of their creation. So this is going to be a really fun challenge. I believe this challenge came from... I can't remember which challenge that they had to do supervillains, or I think it's maybe a new challenge. I'm not totally sure. Oh, actually, yeah, it was the season three premiere episode. They did like a where they had to do a look that is like a supervillain. So it was based on that challenge. I just remember that right now. And so we actually also learn about, I think, I put his name down. They're actually going to also be judged by Tom McFarlane, which I guess is like a really big figure in comic books. Created this one called Spawn. I'm not a comic book person, but if people are like, oh my god, he's like a really like big figure, I'm like, I have to believe you because I'm not part of that community. But then we get into the prep stage of the challenges, and everyone's kind of presenting like, oh, like what their superhero is gonna be like. And I'll talk more about that when I actually start talking about the looks of the challenge. But the funniest thing that was part of this prep was just Abora spiraling out of control. Well, not out of control, just Abora is just like regressing, and like they said they're like regressing into a childlike state. They were like creating like a fort in their own like workspace, messing around. They were putting like zip ties and string around them. They were like stapling their face. They even brought in one of the like mannequins. It's like a black kind of like shiny plastic mannequin, and Abora was like, "This is Sandra. She's black," and I thought that was so funny. Abora is, for how serious Abora can also get really, really crazy. And everyone's just trying to like give their presentations, and Abora's just like in the background like acting a fool, and I think it's like a little funny, honestly. And then everyone's just kind of talking about like, oh, like what's your super like power, and like how do you fight? And then everyone's just kind of having fun, like showing off their powers and stuff. And honestly, when you watch like a lot of like even Drag Race and Dragula, a lot of the people are just like really big nerds, and honestly it feels like very both nostalgic and it feels nostalgic yet funny, because I love I love just like nerding out with people, and then it's just fun seeing people like have fun and like be nerds with each other. But now I know, like this is the shortest I've gone through this, but now we're actually going to be going on to the challenge, because I don't like it being like the last two episodes. We're not getting a lot of like, I would say, like they're like a lot of the stories are like wrapping up, and so we don't really get a lot of like conflict with each other, maybe with a slight like shade or jab, but nothing like crazy like previous episodes. But now we get onto the judging, and the Boulets come in, and they had this like kind of really cute bodysuit. It's just kind of like a one piece, and they kind of had like these cute like little face masks and capes. Honestly, pretty simple but cute. And then we get our judges, which are Tom McFarlane, like who I talked about before, who was like a really big figure in comic books. And then we have Steve Orlando, which I guess is another creator of other comic books, but I'm not a comic book person, so I don't really know these people. I'm like Kiki Palmer. I was like, I don't know who this man is. Sorry to this man. But now let's get on to the challenge. So, the first competitor we have coming up is Eva Destruction. And Eva Destruction, they did this very much like very much traditional looking supervillain, very much gave the lady from Power Rangers, that like kind of like witchy lady from Power Rangers. I cannot remember her name off the top of my head, but like the lady with like the loud, the really like loud voice, who was really funny. I can't remember her for the life of me, but it kind of reminded me of that. It was like a lot of green, like kind of flowy fabric with like this kind of molded like vine like bodice piece, and this like really kind of scraggly like kind of like flame like hair, and then this really cool like skull scepter that also had the like green and black vines on it. And like for wearing a lot of black, like, and like it's like a lot of black and green, but like wearing a lot of black sometimes can be like a little bit like it can hide you, but like they gave a lot of like green accents, and it was like really cool. And the staff was like smoking, and it was like they had like a tiny smoke machine in the staff, and like it was really cool. I really liked it. And then we get on to JK, and JK came out as a like the king of the roaches. I hated this look because I hate roaches, but then I also love this look because of how cool it looked. So JK it was just kind of like this kind of like latexy bodysuit with the kind of like shell armor of a cockroach, and they had this like the mouth spreader that kind of looked like Predator, and it was kind of like encrusted with like the kind of like spiny stuff, and the makeup was also really cool. It was like orange, and they like painted the eyes. JK is probably some of my favorite makeup that I've ever seen from like a drag artist, like ever. They always do something, they're always changing it up, always different colors, just honestly so detailed and so beautiful. I love it so much. I remember when I went to DragCon last year that I saw JK, and they did these really cool like pink and orange looks. I wanted to say hi to JK so bad, but I was just like too nervous to say hi. But I saw them, and just they're honestly always like really, really beautiful looks, and I loved it. And they also had these like they had these two like mandible like legs that you can take off and fight with. And in the prep stage, they were talking about like, oh, like you put some context cement on it, and it'll stay put unless you like take it off. And I felt like that was a little bit of foreshadowing, because one of them was coming off, and that was kind of the sad part, because overall it was a really good look, but just that kind of malfunction kind of messed it up a little bit. But it was still cool. I liked it. It's just like they did like kind of zoom in on that like kind of part. All right, next up we have Jaharia, which Jaharia, like I love Jaharia. Jaharia is one of my faves, the original season, and it was kind of, they've been also one of my faves this season. But I feel like this is kind of the same deal as like the original season. The original season, they were doing so well, but then like close to the end, they've just been kind of dipping a lot. Like last week, I talking about like the Rocky Horror dress and the bodysuit. Like they kind of gave me more like villain, like a lackey or a grunt, more than like an actual villain. They had this like corseted plate, but it wasn't a corset. It was just like like up and down, like kind of barrel shape, and like this is not a jab on her body at all, because like I have like I'm also a bigger person too, but just like the like, and you just need a little bit more proportions, because like if you're gonna have that, make it kind of like not fully an hourglass shape, but at least have it come in a little bit. At least maybe have like the like have an angle rather than it be kind of like up and down and have this like black bodysuit. Like the makeup and the hair and the whole colors was nice, but just like the outfit itself, just like it didn't really lend itself to be a really good supervillain. It kind of reminded me of like one of like the admins, like one of the admins of us like surveillance, like the boss of like the grunts, but not like the full supervillain, which is like kind of disappointing, because like I was kind of hoping that they would do better than this, but it just like wasn't the greatest. And then now onto Cynthia Doll, which I feel like it was a really good look, and their explanation in the log tabletop talk, like their challenge prep, they're talking about like, oh, like I'm fighting like beauty standards and all that. And they were like, oh, like my powers, like my reason for being a supervillain is like I'm fighting beauty standards, and I feel like I liked the look. The look was amazing, but the concept did not match the look at all. Like they were talking about how like, oh, the nose that I do, because they do like this crazy like nose contour style of makeup, but the nose did not like, they're like, oh, like there was this girl that I knew in school that was made fun of for her nose, and I emulated my nose to be based off of that. But I just feel like if you wanted to have something more beauty standards, have something with like a mirror or something. Like the eyeball didn't really make sense. It gave more like, oh, like wanting to like surveillance and like Big Brother, and or like Alien, like more than like the look, more than like the original concept. And I thought the look was really cool. I loved they were wearing like, their head was like a big eyeball for a little bit, but it was like more of a mask, and they had like these eyeballs all over their body. And when they took off the mask, and it was just kind of like this wet, kind of like short, slick back hair with like their kind of normal style of makeup. They usually like experiment with makeup, but like this time around, like I noticed they did try to do like the eyeball veins and like the wing of their eyeliner. Sorry, I had like a Pepsi Zero before this, so like I'm like kind of gurgling right now. But it's just like it didn't really like serve itself. Like I think the look was really good, but for the concept, it didn't really make sense. Like the look was good, but like I feel like this really kind of messed them up this week. And then next up we have Abora. They did this kind of like, I believe I'm not a superhero person either. Like I don't really like. I heard like, oh, it's supposed to be kind of like Bizarro, and I guess like it's supposed to be like some like antithesis to like an anti to Superman, because Abora to me just kind of looked like evil Superman. Like the look was like good in some aspects. Like they did this trend alert stilts. This is the third time I believe they were wearing stilts, and they did this thing where it was kind of like the torso and like legs were like a puppet, and they were controlling these stilts, and like they made like their like look fly, and it looked like it was flying, which I thought was really cool. It looked really cool, but just like some parts of the execution were really that good. Like they were trying to make it look like it was their cape, but it just, you can see the stilts, and the stilt covers weren't really made that well. So you can like see like parts of the stilt and like their foot and stuff. So like the concept was good, but the execution was kind of like a 7 out of 10. It was good, but it just wasn't amazing, which kind of sucks, because I was like, it kind of scares me that like, oh, Abora like kind of fumbled a little bit. But now we're done with all the looks, and now let's get on with the judging and deliberations. So we first start with the Boulet deliberations, and for Swan, I believe the smaller Boulet is Swan, and Swantula, and they were talking about like, oh, Drag, what is like your favorite like supervillain or like mutant and stuff like that? And they were like, I don't know, I'm not like much into that like superhero stuff. Like I'm more into like fantasy and stuff. But then we get onto their deliberations, and like Swan talks about like they made a song where it's like, oh, I hope Abora does not end up dead, meaning that Abora doesn't get eliminated or like do so bad that they would have to get eliminated. And they said like it was like they didn't really do that, but like there was still some like aspects of the look that like didn't land that well. And then they thought, let's see, they thought Jaharia kind of flopped a bit and was like they just kind of messed up, and they didn't really get the concept of their supervillain. And they thought like, oh, Cynthia did good, but they talked about like, oh, Jaharia did good all season, but should they go home over one messed up look? And then Cynthia did really well today, but their track record throughout the season wasn't that well. So they're talking about like their thoughts on like who to keep and who to like eliminate. And they liked JK and Eva's looks as well. They didn't really have much else to say besides saying it would look good. And now let's get on to the judging. So I'll go kind of quick with the judging because I kind of touched on a bit. So they liked Cynthia's look, but they didn't really know the superpower of Cynthia's look, and that they also didn't change the makeup up that much for the challenge. They thought JK's was really good, but they did talk. But I think it was like Tom McFarlane talked about like, oh, you need to kind of like maybe do a little bit more airbrushing to give a little bit more of that detail, and also that I'm so sorry, I can't remember their name. Steel of Orlando was talking about the like mandible coming off one of the weapons coming off of JK's outfit. They really liked Eva's destructions. Like, look, they said the look was nice, but they much more commemorated the like acting of the look. They were like a light on stage. They were doing such amazing movements and choreo, and it just kind of flowed really nicely. Like Tom McFarlane talked about it like as a ballet, like the staff, the cape, their body movements kind of like melded together like an amazing like ballet. And then they talked about Jaharia like loving the color palette, but they didn't really know like what kind of supervillain they were supposed to be. And they talked about how like Jaharia said that my supervillain is kind of based on like me, and like talking about like my supervillain is kind of just like based off of my drag character, so I kind of like made myself look like, oh, what if I was a supervillain? And like it made sense because like that's kind of like their color palette, but also like they kind of should have done a little bit more with the outfit. Like it was like a lot of it was just kind of bare, like Tom talked about it, and like how like their chest area was just kind of bare. And it just kind of had like the black like void of the latex. And Tom also talked about like the zipper in the back, how they said like, I have this one thing, I don't want to know how a evil villain dresses. Like, oh, I don't want to see like how they put on their outfits in the morning. And I thought that was kind of funny. And then Abora, they said the look, they kind of look like Bizarro, and it kind of felt like more like cosplay rather than an original character. And they said the gag of the look was nice, but the actual look itself, there was just some like messy aspects about it. Like they talked about the stilts, they talked about like the logo trying to look like an A, but it just kind of looked like an upside down Superman logo. And they just kind of said like the concept and the gag of the look was really nice, and the makeup was good, but just the details weren't like super polished. And then we get the winner of the challenge, and that is, you guessed it, Eva Destruction. And so they really loved Eva Destruction's look, and they talk about the elimination. And it's going to be all 4 of the rest of the competitors are going to be up for extermination. And the way the extermination is going to go is going to be 2 and 2. And there's going to be 2 people going to be eliminated today. The 3rd double elimination of this season, which is like insane. But then we get into the cauldron, and everyone just kind of like pleading their case of being like, this is like just pleading their case to Eva, like Eva has any like thing they can do about it. Saying like, JK is like, I worked so hard, I have made such amazing growth compared to like my last season. And Jaharia is like, it's going to be a clean slate. You know how good I've been doing in this competition. I have fumbled this week, and I know like I'm going to do very much better. And then Abora's like, I know like how like I've done so much from compared to Titans 1, where I did terribly. I hated everything that I did. And they just really, really need this, because they really, really just want to make it to the finale and show everyone, like, I can do this. And then, Cynthia saying, like, even though I had, like, a really bad track record, I have done so much. I've, like, showed so much variety in my package this season, but then kind of made a jab at Abora again about, like, how they kind of done the same thing all the time. And they were like, you don't really need to make a jab at someone to make your point. Kind of going back to like what they were doing with Sigourney last week. We're like, you don't need to jab at other people to plead your case. Plead your case, talk about like why you deserve to be here, rather than like trying to put other people down, saying like, oh, they're not as good as me. But like, all of you have done amazing in this competition. You all made it to the top 5. Like, you can't just, like, say, like, mean things about people, thinking that people are going to agree with you. And then JK kind of stepped in and was like, hey, you've done really good in this competition. You have shown so much growth from season 5. And you've done so amazingly well this competition, even though for not having a win or, like, doing great in some aspects, you're doing really well, and you don't need to like put a board down just because you are like on edge about this. You have done amazing in this competition, and you deserve to be here. And Cynthia was like, yeah, I guess maybe I shouldn't really be jabbing at people. I really need to just be focusing on myself. And I love how they kind of ended this relationship with JK and Cynthia, because like for original season 5, they were like going at each other's throats all the time. But then this season, they really like grown their compassion to each other. They love each other so much, and they're going to be like best friends forever. And then we get to the elimination. So the first 2 people are JK and Cynthia, and this was just like really emotional because they had this really amazing bonding moment in the cauldron, and now they're both going up, and one of their dreams are going to be crushed. And the first eliminated person is Cynthia Doll. Cynthia Doll gets eliminated. JK stays. That means JK is going into the finale. And JK was just like really, really sad. Like, I fought so hard to be here, but losing and like leaving so close to the end of the competition. I really wanted her to be there, but she unfortunately was eliminated. And then we get to Abora and Jaharia. There really wasn't much like emotion there, but it was just like these 2 were like the biggest heavy hitters of the competition. And the person going home is Jaharia. Even though Jaharia did really well, Abora did much better in the competition than Jaharia. But unfortunately, Jaharia goes home. So the top 3 is going to be JK, Eva Destruction, and Jaharia. But they do allude to the fact that 4 is really a really interesting number. So basically, we're just going to be learning about the showdown. And then we get to the showdown. It's going to be versus Blackberry versus Sigourney. And the winner of the showdown is Sigourney. But yeah, so now that we're getting close to the season, kind of shorter episodes. But yeah, so thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and follow all my socials down in the doobly-doo. And without further ado, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and hope you guys have a nice and safe day, and have a happy holidays. Bye!